Today we're going to be talking about music and memory, how music has an effect on memory, and also some activities you can do at home, either yourself or with a loved one, to work on some of those skills related to memory using music. So my name's Rachel Lockerbie. I'm a board certified music therapist at Music Center of the Northwest, which is a nonprofit community music center in northern Seattle. We offer private lessons and classes, groups to all ages. And now we also recently launched a music therapy program in the past few months. So we give in-person and virtual music therapy, as well as traveling services for different facilities and schools. So a little bit about music therapy. Music therapy is the evidence-based practice of using musical interventions to achieve non-musical or individualized goals. So this practice is provided by a board-certified music therapist, which is someone who's completed a degree in music therapy, as well as a 1,200-hour clinical internship, and has also sat for a board certification exam and passed that exam. So that's just a little bit about music therapy. But we're going to go ahead and talk about how music and memory are connected. So there's been many studies researching this, how music has an impact on the brain and on memory in particular. This one is actually from NIH, the National Institute of Health, and this study was done on this very question. And their findings were quite interesting. They found that music has a prominent role in the everyday life of many people. Whether it is for recreation, distraction, or mood enhancement, a lot of people listen to music from early in the morning until late at night, especially since the invention of radio and recordings. Because of its near ubiquity, music has been identified as important in the construction of autobiographical memories, and thus for making judgments about oneself and others. Because emotions enhance memory processes and music evokes strong emotions, music could be involved in forming memories, either about pieces of music or about episodes and information associated with particular music. So in this study, they basically found that there's a connection between emotion and memory, a connection between music and emotion, and thus they found a connection between memory and music as well. Another study that talks about this question is from the Mayo Clinic. They found that musical memories are often preserved in Alzheimer's disease because key brain areas linked to musical memory are relatively undamaged by the disease. And later on in this presentation, we'll actually see one of those areas that's commonly damaged in Alzheimer's disease, such as the hippocampus, that they actually found musical memories stored in this area to be relatively undamaged, unlike other memories, which was pretty interesting. They also found music to relieve stress, reduce anxiety and depression and agitation, which are often also associated with Alzheimer's disease or other forms of memory loss. And in terms of caregivers who are caring for these individuals, music can benefit them as well to reduce anxiety or distress, lighten the mood, and providing a way to connect with loved ones who have Alzheimer's disease, especially those who have difficulty communicating. So, further exploring this question, you might know of some ways in your life that music is connected to memories in your life, whether this be stages of your life or emotional memories, or whether this be stuff that you learned maybe as a child in your early childhood could be a pretty easy thing to think back to. Of how music and memory were connected for you. Maybe songs that you learned as a child. Everyone pretty much learned their alphabet with a melody involved. And this is a really common technique used with kids to learn topics. Or there's educational television shows that maybe you or children or grandchildren watched, like Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which a lot of times have used music to learn difficult concepts or even to learn skills, or in some cases, even activities of daily living. So maybe you can think of some ways that you've used music in this way, or to remember something important, or even times throughout your life when just hearing a certain song has evoked emotions or memories from your past that you find have been tied to that particular piece of music. So this is a graphic I was talking about earlier, which is music in the brain, and how playing and listening to music works several different areas of our brain. So first of all, we have the sensory cortex, which controls tactile feedback. So that could be used while playing instruments or dancing along to music. We also have the auditory cortex, which listens to sounds. So it also perceives and analyzes and distinguishes between different sounds and tones in music. And the hippocampus, which we spoke about, which is involved in music memories, experiences, and context, which again, many studies have found that even though the hippocampus is often damaged in cases of memory loss, that musical memories often remained. The visual cortex is also activated, which is involved in reading music or looking at your own dance moves. The cerebellum is also activated, which is involved in movement. So this could also be while dancing or playing a musical instrument, as well as emotional reactions to music, which again, we found are associated to memories as well. And this is also found in the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex, which controls behavior, expression, and decision-making, which can also sometimes be affected by diseases that feature memory loss. The motor cortex, which is involved in movement while dancing or playing an instrument as well. And also activated by playing and listening to music is the corpus callosum, which connects both sides of the brain. So music, listening, and playing can both be very active activities for the brain and for the body as well. So a few tips before we go ahead and get into some of the activities that we can use music to work on memory skills. If you are a caregiver or a loved one and you're helping someone with this activity, musical cues can be really helpful. Sometimes verbal cues. Sometimes it's been found for people to not respond as well to verbal cues as they might to musical cues. And also in these activities, it's pretty important to use music that is familiar or preferential to your loved one. So if you know what that music is, great. If you don't, you can also try to look up music from the time of their adolescence. What music was popular when they were a teen or a young adult. Studies have found that this particular stage of life, music has the greatest impact at this stage of life and is often remembered the most even later in life. And kind of going along with that first point, in some of the lyrical activities that we'll be looking at, sung general lyric content has also been shown in these studies to be more effective than spoken lyrics. So if you're doing an activity with a loved one, it has been found to be more effective to sing to them to produce a response back than to just speak. All right. So one activity that you can do with a loved one, which is pretty basic and easy, this one, is just finishing the lyric. So you might sing somewhere over and ask your loved one to respond, the rainbow. And it could be something this easy, or depending on the stage of memory loss, you could make this longer and more difficult. And remember that this particular activity is most effective if you sing the first part of the lyric for your loved one rather than speak it. Some of us have different comfort levels with singing, but this is often more effective than just speaking the lyric. So this one's pretty simple, but also pretty effective, and can also give you clues as to what type of music your loved one might be familiar with, remember, or have a preference for as well. Another activity you could do with your loved one is musical bingo. So you could create your own musical bingo cards if you know, again, those songs that are preferences for your loved one. Or you could search for printable bingo cards that already have songs on them, such as the one on the next slide, which I'll show you in a second. And what you can do is play from YouTube these songs, or if you like to sing yourself or play an instrument, you can sing part of each song for your loved one. And you want to do these songs in a random order. So once you've given them the bingo card, they can mark the songs off as they recognize them until they're able to cross off enough to get bingo. So here is just an example of one that I found online doing a really quick Google search. And there's a bunch of these that have different decades or different artists or different types of music that you can find. And you can just go through the songs and play them. Again, you can kind of alter this depending on your loved one and maybe what stage of memory loss they might be in. So you can make it a bit easier by including the title of the song in the section that you play for them. Or you can make it more difficult by playing a section of the song that doesn't include the title. So then they really have to be familiar with the song and guessing and remembering what that song is based on what you play. Another activity you might try is a lyric scramble. So for this one, what you would want to do is take sheets of paper. You can cut out squares of that paper and choose lines from those familiar songs that you picked for your loved one. Write the line on the squares, and you want to put one word or a short phrase on each square. Then mix up the order and try to have your loved one put these squares back in the correct order. So again, using that same song, this is one that might be a little bit easier, putting somewhere over the rainbow, way up high in that order. You might also want to try to have if your loved one is able, you can put longer phrases or even an entire chorus of a song and have them try to put the lyrics in the correct order. So YouTube is a really great resource for these types of musical activities that you could do either by yourself or with a loved one. And this is especially great if you're doing these by yourself or you want to encourage your loved one to do them by themselves. So something you can do is just go to youtube.com, which I will just show you here. And you can type in, let's see if it'll work. There it goes. You can type in like sing along Beach Boys. We'll have this one. And you can go on here and just choose song. There's going to be an ad here, but you can choose a song that will give you basically just lyrics on the screen that you can sing along with. So it'll play the song, have the lyrics on screen, and you can sing this yourself or along with a loved one. You can also do this for karaoke songs to engage yourself or a loved one in music. You can type in pretty much the same thing, karaoke, Beach Boys, and it'll come up with a bunch of songs that then you can click on, and instead of having the backing track, it'll be just an instrumental, so you can sing along with that. There's also a bunch of duets on here where people have uploaded themselves singing a song, and you can sing along with that person, so only their part will be in it. So you might say like duet male part only, and there's a bunch on here that you can choose from, and you can sing along with someone else if maybe you enjoy singing and don't have someone to sing along with you at home. All right. Another one you can try is guessing the song. So I'll show you guys this one. So there's a bunch of different decades or artists or types of music you can use for this one. And basically, this is a guess the song quiz. And what it'll do is it'll go through, while there's these question marks, it'll play the song for a few seconds, give you time to think, and you can pause the video if you need more time. And then it'll play the song and tell you if you got it right or not. And there's a bunch of these on YouTube. You can type in guess the song quiz and then pretty much any decade or musical artist, and there's bound to be something related to what you're interested in or what your loved one is interested in. All right. It's bigger. Okay. So another thing that you can do by yourself or a loved one that can be really meaningful experience for connecting music and memory and for also reminiscing is to create a personal life playlist. So this is basically putting together a bunch of different songs that are based on your life. You can do this by yourself or as an activity to engage and connect with a loved one. And basically what this means you would do is that you can put together songs that either impacted you during different stages of your life or songs that you feel describe the different stages of your life. So you could do this more literally, where it could be maybe you try to remember or have your loved one remember songs from their childhood that they remember clearly, or songs from their teen years, or maybe a song that played at their wedding, or a song they sang to their children, something like that, and try to go all throughout the different stages of your life or their life. Or you could make it a bit more abstract. If you can't remember these particular songs, is to go through different stages of your life and pick out different songs or different types of music that you feel kind of describe those stages of your life and how you felt as you were going through those times. And another activity that you might do by yourself or with a loved one is music trivia games. So this is another one that you can search for pretty easily. You can just go on to Google or whatever search you use and type music trivia plus a decade, again, that might be familiar to your loved one, or the name of an artist that you or your loved one particularly likes. And there's a bunch of different music quizzes online that you can go through. So we'll just look at a couple of these. So this one is from this website called howstuffworks.com, and they have a bunch of different music quizzes on there. So this one is for anyone who's a Beatles fan. And you can go through the quiz and it'll tell you a line from the song. And based off of just that, can you or your loved one guess what the song is? And going back to something we talked about earlier, if your loved one can't guess it, you could even try singing the song for them, which might make it a little bit easier. And the nice thing about this website is that they also have this hint option. So let's see if it'll let me click on it. So when you click on it, it's taking a second to load. But basically it will get rid of 2 of the options. So then you only have 2 options left. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. And you can choose, here comes the sun. Once it loads, it'll tell you whether or not you got it right. And it gives you a little fun fact about the Beatles, which is kind of nice. And then there's just another one to show you a different one. This one is based off of 60s TV shows. So it's different theme songs from different TV shows that were popular in the 60s. And again, you can type in whatever decade is relevant to you or your loved one. And again, if you know the tune of the song, you can sing it for them if that makes it a little bit easier. You can click on the answer or click on hints if you need more time. And again, it'll tell you if you got it correct or not, and a little fact. So this website has a bunch of different quizzes like this, or if none of these are to your liking, you can also just go onto Google and type in music trivia and whichever particular decade or artist that you like. All right. Oops. All right, so those are just a few activities that you could try by yourself or with your loved one. If anyone has any questions, either about activities or about music in the brain, we can go ahead and take those now, I believe.